When I first heard the word synergy being used in a casual conversation, my immediate thought was, okay, we're making up words now. I mean, the word kind of gives away its meaning. So even if you guess, you probably won't be too far off. But with that being said, I did still Google the definition of synergy the second that conversation was over. Google told me that synergy means the interaction or cooperation of two or more organizations, substances, or other agents to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of their separate effects. In all honesty, that meant nothing to me. I had to crowdsource and ask half the people I know to get a definition that gave me some semblance of understanding. Now my definition for synergy is coming together. It's supporting and uplifting each other, working collaboratively despite our backgrounds and differences, and recognizing that everyone has something to contribute. Which might just be a dumbed-down version of exactly what Google told me, but whatever. As Canadians, especially in recent years, I think we're all constantly told how we are a cultural melting pot. We celebrate our differences, and we take care of each other. But honestly, I think this can be a very surface-level view of our identity, especially when we are often polarized because of these differences, or try to pretend that they don't exist, rather than celebrating them, or at the very least, acknowledging them. This sad fact has also been exacerbated by the media. I think most people can relate to opening up their Insta, Twitter, Facebook, Snap, MySpace if that's your generation, even the news to see a post or an article that was expressly meant to be divisive and make people feel othered. It can be so hard to have that connection with each other and acceptance of each other when we have to struggle to even tolerate each other and exist in spaces with people who don't align with our worldviews. I am a proud Canadian immigrant. Ethnically, I'm Nigerian, but I've lived here for basically my entire life. Socially and culturally, I am Canadian. However, as a Black girl moving from Toronto to the relatively small and empty Lloydminster in the early 2010s, I had a lot of problems with trying to conform to what I perceived to be the common society. Especially growing up, I often felt out of sync with my more Canadian peers. And it was in these formative years that I learned the true meaning of synergy, and more importantly, the effect of its absence. It is hard to come together with people when preconceived notions about you and your background make a barrier between you and them before you can even try. And most often, this barrier is not even malicious, and just based in a fear of the unknown or a lack of exposure to diversity. And whether or not this barrier is there, after experiencing it everywhere you go, you learn to see it when it's not there, and assume rejection before you take any action. I spent years trying to push down anything that I found too different, making sure that I talked extra proper with no hint of an accent, following all the trends so my clothes wouldn't stick out. This was my Visco Girl era in 2020, y'all know what I'm talking about? Refusing to take the cultural foods my mom would make for lunch for fear of being teased, avoiding the sun so I wouldn't get any darker, straightening my hair to the point of severe damage, and trying everything I possibly could to create an identity that I felt was palatable enough for the masses. Throughout all these experiences, I learned when you are out on the periphery and looking inwards to society, or you feel that you are, no matter how hard you try to suppress yourself and change your identity to fit in, you'll only stick out more. The fake persona that you create around yourself will eventually crumble, and whatever minuscule amounts of acceptance you thought you had with your mask on will go away. At that point, what will you do? How will you cope when you realize that all of the superficial relationships you've built around yourself are gone? I experienced this firsthand, and my answer was to have a mental breakdown. It took me far too long to learn that there is no such thing as a perfect society. The ideal that I was chasing didn't really exist, and there was never anything wrong with me in the first place. I learned that I didn't have to work to change myself. I didn't have to pretend to be someone else, and no one should ever feel like who they are isn't good enough. As Canadians, I think we often claim multiculturalism, diversity, social solidarity, acceptance, etc., while ignoring what it takes to really uphold these factors of our identity. This is kind of cliche, but have that open dialogue with people that you think are just a little too different from you. or people that you think you probably wouldn't get along with. It's okay to be in spaces with someone that isn't easy for you to understand. And it's okay to recognize that we're not all the same. We're not all treated the same for a multitude of reasons. But those differences that make us unsure or uncomfortable aren't a bad thing. And it's so important not only to acknowledge them, but to embrace them. We don't have to not see color to be inclusive. Color is not a bad thing. What we do need is to keep our eyes open and recognize that all of the things that are used to polarize us can also be used to bring us together. So ask the weird and uncomfortable questions. Unless they're about my hair, don't ask about my hair. Gain an insight on the views and the experiences of the person next to you. And if you can't begin to understand, at least notice them, because everyone has something to contribute. We don't have to realize that we're all actually not that different. There's people out there who could not be more different from you. Like my brother, he's different from everyone. But when we come together, that's when the real synergy happens. It's when we build true connection and community. And it's not in the life-changing gestures or the dramatic moments. It's in the everyday, in the small moments, when we choose to speak up, or when we choose to listen, when we make space for stories and experiences that aren't our own. We don't come together by pretending we're all the same. We come together by acknowledging the fact that we're not, and choosing to show up for each other anyway.